Sure. Here's section 1 of the script. 500 words, tightly written, emotionally direct, and to the point as requested. I never thought I'd find myself in this situation. Not at this age. Not with the life I had built. My name doesn't matter, but what does is that for 6 years, I'd been married to David. From the outside, we were a picture of stability, nice house, good cars, quiet neighborhood. But inside, quiet was all there was. The kind that sinks in deep when two people stop trying. David wasn't cruel, just absent. Business trips turned from occasional to frequent. Phone calls got shorter. Intimacy dried up without warning. It's funny how quickly silence becomes normal when no one breaks it. I blamed stress, age, work. I convinced myself it was a phase. Until I realized I wasn't even trying to fix it anymore. Then Ryan moved back in. David's son from a previous marriage. 21, freshly graduated, polite to a fault. Always said thank you, always offered to help. He wasn't a boy anymore. That was clear the day I saw him unloading boxes into the guest room, sleeves rolled up, jaw tight, the kind of presence that makes you forget how long it's been since someone looked at you. Really looked. At first, it was nothing. We talked over breakfast. Sometimes late at night, he'd wander into the kitchen for water, and we'd end up sitting at the table, trading small talk. I told him stories about his father when we first met. He laughed, sometimes a little too hard, and he'd hold eye contact longer than he needed to. I noticed, but I didn't react. It was innocent. Mostly. He had this way of listening that made me feel like I mattered again. Not as a stepmother, not as some wife left on the shelf, but as a person. He noticed when I got my hair done. Complimented a dress I hadn't worn in years. Nothing dramatic, just present. It had been years since someone made me feel that way. Still, I told myself I was imagining it. He was just being nice. Maybe I was craving attention so badly I'd invented the chemistry. But then came the night David was gone again, and I was sitting on the couch, drinking wine, half watching some forgettable show. Ryan walked in, sat down without asking. He didn't speak at first, just sat there, watching whatever was on. Then, quietly, he asked, "Are you happy?" The question hit me like a slap. I looked at him, trying to read his face. He didn't blink. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words wouldn't come. Because no, I wasn't happy. Not even close. And he knew it. That was the first moment I realized something had shifted. Something unspoken had passed between us. It wasn't lust. Not yet. But it was something close. Something dangerous. I should have pulled back then. I should have created distance. But instead I stayed. I let the air grow thick with possibilities. I let myself wonder what it would feel like to be wanted again. And from that night on, I couldn't stop thinking about him. I got home earlier than usual that day. David was out of town again, Chicago, I think. I remember thinking how quiet the house felt, how still. I went upstairs to drop off the dry cleaning in our room, passed by Ryan's door, and that's when I saw it. The door wasn't fully closed. I didn't mean to look. I swear I didn't. But something caught my eye. Just a sliver of movement. My eyes shifted without thinking, and in that instant I saw Ryan. He was alone. Shirtless. Lost in something private, something raw. I froze. Time stopped. I should have walked away. I should have pretended I didn't see a thing. But I didn't move. Not right away. Then he saw me. Our eyes locked. Neither of us said a word. His face flushed, but he didn't panic. He didn't scramble to cover himself. He just stared at me. There was shame, sure, but also something else, boldness. I finally turned away and walked straight to my room, my heart pounding like I'd run a marathon. I closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed, and tried to breathe. What the hell just happened? I told myself it was an accident. A stupid, awkward moment. But the heat in my chest wouldn't go away. I kept replaying his eyes, his face, that calm stare like he didn't regret anything. The silence that followed in the house was unbearable. Every sound, footsteps, doors, made me flinch. I avoided him that night, locked myself in early, told myself it would pass. But he knocked on my door just after midnight. Soft knock.
One.
Then another. I hesitated before opening it. He stood there, quiet. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. His voice was low, unsure. I nodded. He came in and sat at the far edge of the bed like he knew the lines he wasn't supposed to cross. He said he was sorry, that it wasn't what it looked like. I told him he didn't owe me an apology. But we both knew that moment changed something. He looked me in the eye and said, You didn't look away right away." I didn't know what to say to that, because it was true, and he knew it. There was no pretending anymore. The conversation turned quiet. We talked about nothing and everything. About college, about his mom, about how lonely the house felt. I told him I hadn't felt like myself in years, that I felt invisible most days. He listened. God, he listened. Like every word mattered. Like I was someone worth hearing. Then he reached for my hand.
It was just that.
Fingers brushing mine. Barely a touch. But it was charged, intimate. And I didn't pull away. His breathing changed.
So did mine.
He leaned in a little, not all the way. Just enough to ask a question with his body. And I answered it by staying still. Neither of us said a word after that. He left the room 5 minutes later. But I couldn't sleep. My body was still burning. My mind was loud with guilt, confusion, and something else I hadn't felt in years.
Desire.
It didn't happen all at once. The first kiss was quiet, almost accidental. A few days after that night, he brushed past me in the hallway. I turned. He stopped. His hand was warm on my waist, and I didn't move. Our faces were close. Too close. And then it happened. Soft, hesitant, but full of things neither of us dared to say. I should have stopped it. I didn't. It wasn't just lust. It was need. A craving for connection that had been buried under years of neglect. He saw me. He wanted me. And I let myself want him back. That night, we crossed the line fully. It was wrong. I knew that. But in the moment, it felt like breathing again after years underwater. We told ourselves it would be once.
Just to see.
Just to feel. But once became twice. Then more. David was away more than he was home, so hiding it wasn't hard at first. But lies grow roots. I was lying to myself most of all. I started to smile more, dress differently, laugh in ways I hadn't in years. But it wasn't happiness. It was escape. An addiction. Ryan changed too. At first, he was tender, patient. Then he grew bolder. He started coming into my room without knocking. Whispered things to me when David was in the other room. He liked the risk.
I didn't.
The thrill started to rot into something darker. He wanted more. He wanted me to tell David. To end the marriage. But I couldn't. I wasn't ready to blow up my life. I told him we had to be careful. That it couldn't mean anything serious. And that's when the cracks started to show. He'd pull away during dinner. Stop responding to my texts. Then show up in my bed at midnight like nothing was wrong. I hated myself for letting it continue. But I couldn't stop. I tried. I swore I'd end it. But every time I looked at him, my body betrayed me. Every time David touched me, I recoiled. Every time Ryan touched me, I surrendered. One night, Ryan said, "I'm tired of hiding."
I told him we had no choice. He didn't respond.
He just stared at me, disappointed, hurt, maybe angry. I started to feel like I was being cornered, like this secret was no longer mine to manage. Then came the neighbor. She stopped by one afternoon when Ryan and I were in the kitchen, far too close.
I don't know what she saw.
But her eyes shifted between us, lingering just a little too long. After she left, I couldn't shake the paranoia. Every sound made me jump. Every question from David felt like a trap. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. I felt like I was living someone else's life. The passion had turned to pressure. The escape to suffocation. And I knew it couldn't last. Not like this. Not for much longer.
Something was about to break.
I just didn't know who would be the first to fall. It unraveled faster than I expected. David came home 2 days earlier than planned. I was in the shower when he walked in. He called my name, casually, like any other night. I answered, kept my voice steady. but the panic had already taken root. I knew something was off the moment I saw his face. He was scanning the room, his eyes lingering too long on small things. The way the sheets looked, the folded shirt on the chair, Ryan's. He didn't say anything right away, just stared at the shirt, then back at me. I lied, of course. Said Ryan must have done laundry, and left it there.
He didn't argue.
Just nodded slowly. But something had shifted in his eyes. That night, the silence wasn't normal. It was sharp, deliberate. He was watching me now. Not with suspicion. With clarity. The next morning it happened. He picked up my phone while I was making coffee. I didn't notice until I heard the sound, his voice low, unreadable. "Who, Czar?" My stomach dropped. I turned. He was holding the screen up. A message still open. Just 4 words. "I miss your skin." The blood drained from my face. There was no excuse left. No lie that would make sense. I didn't answer. I didn't try. He walked toward me, slowly, the phone still in his hand. "Tell me it's not Ryan." I couldn't. I didn't speak. That silence, my silence, was the answer. He stood there, stunned. Not angry. Not yet. Just broken. The shouting came later. He demanded details. How long?
Where?
How many times? I answered with tears, not words. Ryan walked in mid-argument, saw the chaos, and tried to defend me. That only made it worse. David lunged. I screamed. It ended with Ryan grabbing his things and walking out without looking back. David followed with one sentence. "I want you gone by tomorrow." He didn't speak to me again after that. The divorce papers came a week later. No long explanations. Just a signature line and a note that read, "You killed us." My family found out. Friends disappeared. Whispers followed me everywhere. No one cared about the loneliness, the silence, the neglect. Only that I'd crossed a line no one forgives. I moved into a small apartment. Nothing like the house I left behind. Quieter. Emptier. I started therapy. Told myself it was time to heal. But healing isn't neat. Some days I felt nothing. Other days I cried for hours. Not for David. For the version of me that had let herself become invisible. For the woman who waited years to be touched, then was ruined by one who finally did. Months passed. Then, out of nowhere, a letter came. From Ryan. Postmarked overseas. A short note. He said he still loved me. That he'd never regret what happened. That if I ever wanted a different kind of life, I knew where to find him. I never wrote back. I folded the letter, placed it in the back of a drawer, and left it there. Some mistakes don't need correcting. Just remembering. And I remember everything. Every second. Every breath. Every consequence.